Hey fight fans, it's Michelle Joy Phelps with BehindTheGloves.com, and I am here with the one and only Al Bernstein. Al, I admire your work. I respect your opinions. I just want to know what you think is going to happen. Pacquiao versus Bradley, the rematch. When we know what happened the first time around, what are your thoughts?
Well, you know, you even mentioned we know what happened the first time around. Here's the interesting thing about the first time around, and people are probably split into different camps on it. Of course, Bradley won a very controversial decision. Some people think it was that it was such an outrage because Pacquiao won like 10 rounds or 11 rounds. I'm not in that camp. I think Manny Pacquiao won the fight. But to me, it was more like an 8-4 fight. Maybe you could make it 7-5. I didn't think Bradley won the fight. But this time around, I think a couple of factors will play into this. One is Bradley did have issues with his legs in that fight and couldn't push off and couldn't fight as effective as he would like, and yet he still hung in there with Manny. Manny probably wasn't as focused and ready for that fight as he should be. I think both those situations are corrected, and I think both men will fight better.
So you mentioned the 8-4. Now I know that Timothy Bradley has said repeatedly he won 8-4. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the other way, 8-4 probably. But there were many rounds in that fight when you look back on it that could have gone either way. I just think Pacquiao was busier and did more than him. And now, you know, it's kind of ancient history because here we are, they're doing it again. It's a fight that has huge implications for both men, certainly for Pacquiao. Another loss for him could, in fact, signal the end of his career. He's in his mid-30s. And for Tim Bradley, this is the fight for redemption. This is the one to put him over the hump. Yeah, to prove
that he did deserve the title.
Yeah, and to show boxing fans, he's constantly, you know, Tim Bradley's, it's interesting. People, when they talk about Tim Bradley, and I even use this phrase in my Keys to Victory, I said, Tim Bradley's not a fighter that does any one thing great, but he does everything really well. And so the sum of the parts equals the whole. That could be construed as a you know, an insult, because he'd say, well, wait, excuse me, don't say I do anything great. And a lot of people do that. You know, they, and in my case, I'm not demeaning him, but some people treat him like you'd say a quarterback is a good game manager, meaning he doesn't have skills. Well, Tim Bradley has skills, and he's a very good fighter, and this is his chance to really show it.
Okay, so since he last fought, we're going to go back a couple fights. Ruslan Provodnikov and versus, let's come in comparison to Juan Manuel Marquez. Two completely different guys showed up.
Yes.
Now, do you think that if he shows up the exact same guy as he did against Marquez, that he stands a chance at beating Manny Pacquiao?
Well, you know, here's what we have to remember about those two fights. Bradley ended up winning both those fights. They're both very close. All his fights are close. They go to decision. You know, you can look at them different ways. But he slugged with Provodnikov and he boxed with Marquez. I thought the Marquez fight was very close. You know, you can make a case for Marquez in that fight because Bradley did box effectively, but in the last part of that fight did not throw a lot of punches. He was very economical in his punching. Probably what we're going to see is a combination of those things for Tim Bradley, because he does need to box against Pacquiao. He needs to give him angles and use his skill set as a boxer. But he knows that there's the possibility that the judges, in the back of their mind, could feel like they're supposed to right or wrong for Manny Pacquiao, and those close rounds might not go to Bradley.
So, just a thought. Do you think that perhaps the reason why a lot of people just refuse to give Tim Bradley credit is because of the way he won his title?
It could be. I mean, I think a lot of people, you know, perception is a big part of it. And again, you know, not to throw stones, but the way that fight was presented to the public on the night of the fight, it was presented to the public as if Manny Pacquiao won virtually every round, and so it was the worst decision in history. Well, I think Manny Pacquiao won the fight, but I don't think he won every round, and I think there were things that Tim Bradley did well. There were lots of nuances and gray areas there, but I do think that that's a big part of it. People seem outraged by it, and also Tim Bradley's not, I don't know, it's hard to put your finger on it. I've done many Tim Bradley fights, you know, when he started out his career and we were doing them on Showtime. And it is, again, it's about the sum of the parts. So you can't look at one thing and pick out exactly what Tim Bradley does fantastic. And so I think sometimes fans and even media members have a hard time kind of pigeonholing him.
Do you know who I feel like has that same issue is Danny Garcia?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. They're exactly the same because, you can't quite figure out what is the one thing that the things that they're doing that are so effective. They know how to win. And, you know, we see that in other sports, athletes that just know how to win. And, you know, they're both an example of that.
It's as if you don't have a very specific style of fighting, people don't understand it. They're like...
Yeah, well, and you know what it's like? It's like people in the music business. You have to create an identity and go with it. I know many people in the music industry who are very eclectic, and too eclectic for their own good, because when they do different genres and different styles, what happens is it's phenomenal. But you can get people need this thing to hang their head on. We live in this compartmentalized society, and so you're right. They want to identify with you as a certain kind of boxer, and if you do everything well, like the Garcias and the Bradleys, and you win and you show great skills, but you don't have that one thing to hang your hat on, sometimes they don't regard you as a great fighter.
Correct. Well, thank you so much for your time.
I was worried I was wrong. Thank God I'm right.
No, I agree with you. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you, fight fans.